Hi, sixth graders. So you guys are going to be doing your first clay project, and I know that you guys are going to be doing African masks. And of course, African masks are considered one of the most incredible art forms there are. They're masters of mask making, and they really influenced Picasso, by the way. Your teacher can share that story if she wants. Okay, here's a really cool mask that a sixth grader made a few years ago. And here's another. And here's another. So you can see that they all have those characteristics that you guys are going to be talking about with African masks. Certainly they're not colorful or happy, they're serious and almost stern looking, and they have the patterns that you'll see in a lot of African masks. So I'm going to show you today how you can make that African mask. So we're going to come back to the clay that I was showing you before. And remember, I had rolled it out using the guides. I have funky clay here because I'm going to be tossing this when I'm done. But remember, I used those guides. You also now have your template, which you created to be your African mask. I purposely made this one too wide, and the reason is I want you to see that that means you're gonna have to roll forward and sideways to get that wide enough for your mask. So you're gonna have to really think before you start rolling out exactly how wide you want that slab. But I do have it wide enough for this mask. And so I'm gonna use my template, my tracer, and I'm gonna make sure I hold my cutter straight in the air, straight up, keeping my fingers on the template, and I'm going to travel around that mask. Now, something I did not mention earlier is that you don't want to do slicing things like this, slice, 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 slice. You want to get all the way down to where you're hitting the canvas, and then you want to drag all in one motion. It's the best way to cut your clay. Okay, we're going to take these pieces off to the side. And remember that we're going to be using those pieces, but we're not going to squish them up. Okay, you might want to go ahead and cut the eyes out if you already have that in your template. If you don't have eyes in a template and you don't want to cut them out, then you can always build them up instead, or you can cut them out later. So I'm lifting up the clay and pulling those eyes out. Okay, now here is a fun part. You might think that looks pretty good, but if you got really closer, these edges right here are all jaggedy. They look bad. And when this is completely fired, you pick that up and actually cut your finger on that because it could be very, very sharp. So we're going to go ahead, and the first thing you're going to do is smooth this thing. Now, I caution you, that part right there does not need smoothing. It's this part right here, which is the, I think in math, I forget, vertex or something in math they call it. Okay, that's the part that I want to smooth so that it has a nice sort of rounded edge instead. So to do that, I'm going to wet my finger. I used the water and I wet my finger. And I'm going to just gently go around, and I can even pull some clay back, and I'm just going to smooth. Now I have a funny saying with clay that everybody remembers. When you're doing this process, I get kids who press too hard, and then they're actually creating a sharp edge right there. And then I get kids who, just sort of touch it. So I tell everybody, pretend you're petting a lizard, and you want to give him a real good pet, but you don't want to squish his guts out. So that's why we say pet the lizard. And so when you are ready and you've created your slab, you're going to go around and you're going to pet that lizard. Now, if you can see right there, I actually made a sharp edge, and so I'm just going to put that edge down and smooth it. So you're going to go all around, and you're going to smooth out those edges and get it so that it looks like a really nice, smooth edges. You can also flip it over. Remember, I have bad clay here, and you can smooth the edges from the back also so that they're not sharp when this gets fired. Okay, so that's cutting out. What about building up? So you could do just about anything. You could build up stripes on there, which is what this person did. They built up little sections here. They put a nose on it. They put lips on it. They put eyebrows on it. This one has cut out their mouth. They built up a nose. So we're going to talk about building up. You probably already know this part because I showed it in the other video. But let's just say we want a nose that's about like that. Okay, remember that you're going to put holes, not too deep though, about as deep as this tool, and just scoop up water until your fingers are all drippy and put water there. Holes where I want the nose, scoop up water and drop those drops on there. Put the nose on, rock it, pat it, and smooth those edges. Okay, remember that you don't have to just leave it like that because you're in control of that clay. So maybe that top edge is bugging you and you want it to be sharper, or you want to gently press it down in like that. Maybe you want nostrils. You can even add a little bit of clay. So if you put a tiny piece of clay there and it's nice and wet, you should be able to add to it to get nostrils. Okay, now watch carefully though when you add something that this all the way down to the canvas is not more than an inch. If it is more than an inch, we'll either make it a little bit less, or we're going to go to the back and put a little air space in there so that that can dry a little bit better. Okay, you might do all kinds of other things to add to it. You might put a mouth. Oh, I want to show you a really cool trick on an African mask and a mouth. Sometimes we see African masks as having those lips that look kind of like that. So we're going to dot, dot, water, water. Rock it, pat it. So we have that, but of course I have fingernails. You just take your finger and you just press in all the way down and you'll get lips with a hole in it. You can also shape this. So you can just press it and shape it if you want for lips. Okay, let's say you just want to make marks. And in fact, the way you guys are going to add oil pastel paint to this afterwards, it's really a very cool thing for you to have marks in it. Remember, you will never make marks with the cutting tool. That's just for cutting. You're never going to be making marks with that. That's for poking. You're going to take the dull pencil and you're going to just drag it. So I can make really cool marks this way. Okay, I can, do something like that. And so you can do all the markings that you want. If you want, you could also press down holes. So go to the back of the pencil, and they don't have to be too deep because I promise you they're going to show. So you could make marks like that. Okay, finally, when you're completely done and you feel like everything is smooth, you are going to be picking it up. You'll be scratching your initials in it. And then your teacher is going to go ahead and put a hole in this so that you can hang it on the wall. So typically we'll put a hole in. Make sure that the holes aren't too close to the edge, otherwise this will just crack. But we're just going to create a hole in it like that. A lot of times your teacher will use a straw because that works really well. Okay, and then this does not go on your shelf. It goes on the drying cart, stays there for probably about a week and a half before you'll see it again. But you have a great African mask.